It's November, which means we're doing the October L5H market update for October. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at a preview of what happened last month, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into what's actually happening in the market because the sold data doesn't tell us everything. All right, so here we are looking at all the property types for the area. You'll see in October there was 8 detached sales with a median price of 2.065 million. Average days 15 days on market. And if you've watched my other videos, you'll know this is listed days on market, not property days on market, which means if a property was listed for 6 months, they reduced the price and then it sold within a week, that listing will have 7 days on market, completely forgetting about the other property days on market for those previous 6 months. So these numbers are typically lower than the actual days that a property sits on the market because of that algorithm. That said, let's go ahead. Semi-detached, one sold with a median price. Well, obviously it sold for just over that 1.85 mark and 11 days on market. No townhomes sold, sorry, freehold townhomes, and one condo townhouse sold for just under 1.1. And that was actually completely totally on the market for 96 days. Now I'm going to flip screens again and take a look at the MLS itself to go a little more in depth into these numbers. Like I said, the sold data isn't everything. And so we can see what happened last month, talk a little bit about what's happening right now, because of course with real estate, everything always overlaps for months at a time. And with such a small sampling size, obviously not too much sold activity in the L5H as of late. When comparing to the rest of the city, those averages start to make a little more sense. So if you have a detached house, does that mean that you're going to get 2 million for it? Well, if it's worth 2 million, then of course you will. But if it's only worth 1 or if it's worth 5, right, it's hard to really base it off these numbers alone. Same with a semi. Obviously, a buyer thought that semi was worth over 1.8. The next one might not be, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. And the condo townhomes, for example, there's very few condo townhomes in the area. So, for example, the ones on Shawnmar versus Queen Street, completely different style units and completely different ranges of prices. Like I said, let's go ahead, flip over and talk about those other numbers. All right, so here we are looking at the map. This way you can get a general idea, but not exact specifics of where the properties are, obviously for privacy reasons. That said, if I am working with you as a client, of course, we dive into these numbers deeper and go through the properties that are most comparable to yours so you can make an informed decision whether buying or selling in the area. As you can see, we're looking at the 10 that sold in October overall and just for the L5H area. So to start off, let's go ahead and take a look at the one stat that almost no agents talk about is what's expired and suspended and terminated. As you can see, there's 42 expired, terminated, or suspended listings. Now, some of these could have already sold. They could also be on the market right now. We're not going to dive too deep into that, as I said, but it's interesting to see just 42 in October, expired, suspended, or terminated. And just for curiosity, let's see. So 13 of those actually expired. If you have expired and you were wondering what happened, then it's definitely important to dive into these numbers to see. And almost 99% of the time, it comes down to price. A buyer is only willing to pay whatever they want to pay for a property, and therefore that's the market value of a home. It doesn't matter what another agent said. It doesn't matter what your neighbor says. And hate to say it, but it doesn't matter what you think either. The buyer, at the end of the day, they are the one cutting the check, and they're going to determine the value of a property. That's what it comes down to. And our job is to match you together with the right buyer that's going to pay you the most and what makes sense with what the market is telling us. Anyways, a little rant there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what's currently on the market here. And I'll include the sold conditional properties as well because technically they could become available again. So you'll see there's 40 properties here with the last update in October, but let's take these off because there's going to be some overlap either or, right? So there's 98 results here. So of properties currently on the market, yes, there's going to be overlap from a month or two ago even, and now middle of November. Of course, there's been properties that have been listed since. But again, more or less, it's going to be around that same range. So there's 98 properties on the market right now. 10 sold last month. So just off this number alone, it pretty much says you have a 10% chance of selling in the L5H. Really not good odds unless you have someone at your back who's able to provide you these numbers and strategize a way around that. Simply telling anyone what they want to hear is not going to get the job done. Back when the market was going crazy, you could throw pretty much any property on the market and say, yeah, let's see what happens. And even at the peak of the market, you had about a 60% chance of selling. And that's when everything was selling. So now that we're looking at a 10% chance, you really got to take a look at the strategy that's being used. And again, the price point. Now, yes, the L5H has much higher price points, which translates to longer days on market. So that's something to consider as well. And yes, we know the L5H and surrounding areas, these aren't your typical cookie cutter homes that are meant for the first time buyers. You can see just on the preview here, just the high numbers. Let me pull up the stats. And of course, this gets taken into account as well. I mean, you've got everything from 2.6 all the way to $30 million on the market rate now, with an average price of just under $4 million, right? We know these aren't your average homes on the market right now. And of course, things take longer to sell. And then going back to my previous point where you have a 10% chance of selling according to these numbers right now, then that certainly changes the dynamic. And I'm curious how many homeowners, potential sellers are having that sort of conversation right now. Or is it more, yeah, we'll list at whatever price you want and we'll see what happens. I don't really play those types of games, which is why I personally have, since the day I've been in the business, just right at the end of 2017, up until today, I have a 100% sold to list ratio because I only work with clients who are heavily motivated to actually sell. I don't play the games of, well, let's put it on the market and kind of see what happens. If I get my price, great. If I don't, then no problem. And that is what I think a lot is happening, where people want to sell, try and get that high price at the peak of the market, not realizing they only have 10% chance to sell. My point being, ask not how much business they've done, not how long they've been in the business, but out of what you've listed, how many of those properties have you actually sold? And I say this in all my videos for good reason, because I don't think people are asking those questions. A lot of agents talk about the great numbers they do. It's amazing, good for them, but they don't talk about the business they don't do. And that can be quite shocking. Okay, anyways, rant over. So we've looked at what's sold. We've looked at what's currently on the market. Now let's break it down by property type here. So let's take a look at the townhomes. There's currently 2 on the market, which will be the blue. These red ones, that must be a glitch in the system because, yeah, that obviously isn't correct. So we've got 2 condo townhomes on the market right now. And again, similar to last month, these are on the higher end price, 1.1 and over 2 million for the townhouse. So let's go ahead and take a look at the stats for those 2. And average days on market, 112, a low 88, a high of 136. So that is quite interesting. Now taking a look at detached homes, there are 91 currently on the market. Let's go ahead and check the stats on those. 47 days on average, 32 being the median, anywhere from a day to 340. And again, we're dealing with much higher price points, which it's expected. You're going to see those days on market creeping up like that. And condo townhouse, there is 1 currently on the market listed at 1.2. Let's go ahead and check that one. It's been up for 21 days. Now like I said before, I'm not going to dive deep into see if it's been relisted or terminated a bunch of times. That would be something I do with my clients, but for the sake of this video, we're not going to look into that. All right, now let's take a look at the semi-detached. There are 4 currently on the market right now. And this little pocket here, if you know the area, it's where they're demolishing the little bungalows and rebuilding these luxurious semi-detached. And when we look at the stats, let's take a look here. Average is 31 days, median 15. One was just listed 2 days on market, upwards of 91. That said, I know for sure because I drive past these homes once a day, twice a day. And there's been a couple of those have been up since June. I know for sure. It's just termination, relisted, and now it's a fresh new listing on the market, even though the property itself has been up for sale. So it's really interesting. So after this, I won't show it, but I'll look up the actual property days because I'm really curious to see what how long those 4 have been on there on average. These are the numbers you need to know. It's what's sold because the buyer's looking at that data. And then if you're thinking of hitting the market, how do you compare to the current competition? Now, not much is selling, not many comparables. So really is diving into these numbers a little more and be like, okay, what's actually going to happen? What will the buyer response be? And you're going to know within the first 2 to 3 weeks at this point. So I'm sort of giving away the game here, but if you don't have an offer within the first 2 to 3 weeks, then it's time to recap, see what's going on. And I guarantee almost every single time it's down to price. There is a buyer for every single type of property out there. I guarantee it. It's just they're not willing to pay what some sellers are asking, and they will find a seller who will give them what they want. Sometimes it might not even be the best house for them, but the price is right. So this is the game of real estate that we're up against if you truly do want to sell. Otherwise, if you just want to play the market and kind of see what happens, then of course it's all up to you. Just I'm not the right agent in that case. I'm here to help clients actually sell and move to where they want to go. All right, so to recap, 10% chance of selling in the L5H. For anyone thinking of hitting the market, you got to know these numbers. Now, I will admit the most difficult part right now is really because nothing much is selling, there's really not many comparables to go off of. So again, get the market. Everything's moving fast. Everything's moving up day by day. And when everyone's selling, you've got 20 comparables you could use. Well, now you might have a couple or none in some cases. So it can be a guessing game. And that's why we use all of this data to say, okay, how many properties have sold? How many are currently on the market? Where's the pricing at? What's the feedback from buyers? And the biggest one is the average days on market. As soon as you hit that average, if you don't have an offer, chances are you're probably not going to get one. Or if you do, it's going to be a low ball, because I've had some clients who say, don't show me anything unless it's been sitting for a month, because they want to go in and try and get a good deal. Now, everything is going to sell for market value if it sells. If it doesn't, well, then the market has spoken. Buyers aren't willing to pay that price is what it comes down to. There it is in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed this video. And don't forget the important question for the homeowners out there when you're interviewing agents is, out of all the properties you've listed, how many have you actually sold? If you have any questions, let me know. You can contact me. My cell number's there. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you around the neighborhood.